Welcome to discussion summary number 3. My name is Jess Thomas and I'm here in slightly gray Seattle to introduce the topics for this video. As many of us chose green and natural places to write about in our responses, I thought it might be kind of nice to see a green space in Seattle. And so this is the park that is across the street from my apartment building. It's called Tashkent Park. It's kind of small, but it's nice because it lets me see trees when I'm at home. As we learned from our readings, many of us are living in urban areas and are becoming more disconnected from nature. However, we also read about the benefits of being in nature and how important it is to place a value on it. We tried to quantify the value of national and local parks, lakes and rivers, local animal species, and other green spaces in our community. This video will look at the valuation methods of ecosystems, intrinsic versus instrumental value of nature, conservation psychology, and the extinction of experience.
Hi, I'm Kaya Beery, and I'm in Central Park, which is the location analyzed by John Delaney, and I will be summarizing the valuation methods brought up in this week's discussion. So as a class, we discussed willingness to pay, replacement costs, hedonic pricing, and overall economic value for biodiversity in our communities. Almost all of us expressed the complexity and difficulty in placing a monetary value on these services as described by Clayton and Daly. Replacement costs and monetary values were analyzed for oysters, apple trees, and warblers, in each case demonstrating a strong economic value for ecosystem services like water filtration and industries such as tourism and farming. Many in our class focused on determining a willing to pay value for nearby natural areas. Whitewater River, Golden Gardens Park, the Philadelphia Zoo, Templetown Lake, and various beaches were only some of the areas where these values were calculated. WTP values were assessed by assessing possible and existing prices for access to these areas and money spent on tourism and other local attractions. A number of classmates calculated the economic value of local green spaces based entirely on the surrounding tourism industry. It's tricky when considering additional economic factors like staff salaries and maintenance costs, but still, many of these places were valued in the millions of dollars annually. John Delaney estimated that Central Park is worth billions of dollars based on hedonic pricing alone. This high monetary value suggests the widespread appreciation of these areas and experiences. Aaron Taylor cited McGuire and Justice by saying the economic value of Lake Havasu City is directly affected by the relationship between intrinsic value and instrumental value. This reflects the challenge that many of us had in coming up with a monetary value for biodiversity. Though exact figures were elusive, these evaluations support Clayton's claim that nature does have concrete value for people and that ultimately both monetary and non-monetary metrics are important.
Hi guys, my name is Diego Jimenez. I am in the Lowen Square neighborhood of beautiful Chicago, Illinois. And today I want to talk to you about valuing biodiversity, more specifically about intrinsic versus instrumental value. Now, if we were to witness a conversation between two conservationists, we would probably witness them agreeing on how nature has intrinsic value. And this is true. You can't just put a price tag on a forest or on an extinct species. We can't really just say one is more valuable than the other. And I mean, who are we to say how much a leaf is worth or how much a forest is worth? However, it's important to know that. And that is the argument made by Justice and McGuire in our readings, and it's an argument that many of us agreed with in our responses. Intrinsic value lacks the ability to be compared. So when you're sitting down at a table negotiating with a corporation or with a community that needs land, then you have to be able to compare and say, hey, if you tear down this forest, you might be able to build your factory, you might be able to build your hotel or your farmland, and sure, that's going to bring you returns, it's going to create jobs, but the long run risk of that is that you might end up with an eroded soil, an unsustainable ecosystem, you might be prone to floods, I mean, there can be a lot of natural repercussions that could eventually cost you more, and that needs to be computed. That's why it's important to understand the instrumental value of nature. So the key takeaway from all of this, I think, is understanding that instrumental value is able to be compared, and I think the key word would be that you can express it. You can show somebody the actual cost of protecting green spaces, natural resources, biodiversity, and just nature in general.
Hello everyone, my name is Karina Newsom and I'm here in Northeast Ohio in the city of North Canton talking about conservation psychology. Now, conservation psychology looks at the challenges of capturing the attention of the public and encouraging the public to engage in conservation behaviors. And that has many challenges, and some of the issues that we talked about firstly was this idea of sense of place. And Jen actually mentioned that, for example, for her, buying locally is something that helps to encourage a sense of place for her and her family. Her city is known for producing apples and products related to apples, so when she and her family go to local farmers markets, that helps to inspire a sense of place for her and her children. Another idea that we talked about was that oftentimes different organisms will receive disproportionate amounts of conservation attention because of visceral characteristics, and this was talked about in McGuire and Justice's article, that animals and organisms that are more appealing to the general public tend to receive the most conservation attention. And then finally, one of the bigger issues and important ideas to maintain when trying to inspire conservation is the idea that conservation needs to become mainstream. And this idea was brought up in Daly et al.'s article as they were talking about the fact that we need to make conservation attractive and commonplace worldwide. And to do this, we need to identify the value, especially economically, of creating of what the environment is offering us. And that way we can create somewhat of an incentive for individuals and communities to participate in conservation. And maybe our approach, as was brought up in Miller's article, should not be the idea of self-sacrifice, but more sometimes the idea that individuals will be able to enhance their well-beings. And oftentimes, as was expressed throughout our discussions, the idea of placing a dollar sign on ecosystem services and biodiversity makes us cringe a little bit. But it may be worth it and very important and central to making the rest of the world and the general public understand the importance of conservation action.
Hi, my name is Jen Robertson and I am in the historical city of Philadelphia. I will be discussing the extinction of experience concept discussed in Miller's article, Biodiversity, Conservation, and Extinction of Experience. We are in the midst of an extinction crisis, losing dozens of species every single day, with 99% of our loss attributed to human activity. Unfortunately, the vast majority of the world's population is either unaware or indifferent to this loss because more people than ever are now living in cities. Urbanization causes a large disconnect with nature, as explained through Miller's extinction of experience concept. This concept reveals that the biodiversity of native plants and animals in urban areas are extremely reduced and scattered. This creates a meager baseline measurement of environmental degradation by most city people, and results in a continual decline of human perception towards the importance of ecological function and relevance. Time also plays a major factor in the extinction of experience concept and contributes to the widening gap between humans and nature. Less time is focused on the appreciation of life's natural wonders. For adults, busy lives and hectic work schedules are to blame. And for children, too much time spent indoors playing video games or watching TV takes important time away from getting dirty and exploring the outdoors. With 60% of the human population predicted to reside in urban areas within the next 15 years, it is important that there are opportunities to foster the support of conservation. Evidence shows that if people can establish personal connections with natural areas, such as in the sense of place concept described in Kudryavtsev, Stedman, and Krasny, then relationships will forge towards the advancement of environmental education and conservation. These natural areas can be found in even the most developed urban areas, even in such places like Philadelphia, in the forms of established parks, traditional playgrounds, green spaces, in my workplace, and urban zoo.
As we looked at valuing biodiversity, it's easy for a sense of despair to creep in. the loss of animal and plant species, the isolation of urban environments, the intrinsic value of nature not being sufficient, the conflict between economics and environment. Our relationship with nature is complex, but it's not always negative. We visit the same parks from our childhood. We work in places where our passion can engage others. We share the wonder of the natural world with our students and our children. We attempt to put a monetary value on something priceless to express in another way why conservation matters. There is hope. Together, we can work to connect people with nature and turn values into actions.